Climate change is not just about a typhoon. Typhoon is a sudden event or maybe 3 or 4 days and then it passes away. Pero climate change is a long-term shift. Okay, it's a long-term shift in global temperatures and weather patterns. So essentially, that's what climate change means. Ang main cause ini is not just because there's a uh, ice is melting, pero the cause of the melting of ice is mainly because of anthropogenic activities. Kasi siguro mga human activities ini na nagresulta ito ng mga pagbabago. Mainly by the burning of fossil fuels, no? And when we talk about fossil fuels, we basically mean oil, petrochemicals, gases, or coal na usually imamine ini ika ilang kultura. And then because of that particular human activity, may nagre-release ng mga ginsisaring greenhouse gases, including CO2. Pero by the way, it's not just CO2 that's being released, no? Kasi methane is also considered a GHG. And the release is out into the atmosphere. Now, because of this release, yung mga gases are trapped by the atmosphere of the Earth, and then because it's trapped inside, that makes the Earth's temperature, at least the surface, warmer. Itong ginsisiring greenhouse effect. Okay? So, that is simply what we mean by climate change. Among the results ito dida, ang atong ipapakita dito ang picture, include halimbawa ang melting and polar ice caps, frequent typhoons or super typhoons. Familiar na ito ang dalawang picture na aton, ang resulta ng super typhoon Yolanda. And that's mainly because of the extraction of fossil fuels. Okay? The third picture. Ang ikaupat is an Arctic study wherein ginpakita din dito ang Arctic study, in-analyze ang different layers and mga glaciers, polar ice caps. Nga dito nakita nga ang content ang greenhouse gases na natatrap dito ang ice is considerably higher now than it was before. So karigsigon, and it's mainly the anthropogenic or human actions na nagpo-cause on greenhouse gases that result, greenhouse effect that result in climate change. Okay? And next natin na slide shows ang rising temperature, no? Tika nga early 19th century to 2023. Nagtitika pula ang temperature, meaning the atmosphere is really getting hotter. Okay? Ini ang Pilipinas. So, from what used to be blue, it's now becoming yellow and increasingly green. Okay? Which results, specifically for the Philippines, in more frequent storms and typhoons. Nung kamo last year, no, may upat na sunod-sunod na typhoons, di ba? And then even early this year, we have already had that halos tulong typhoons, one coming after each other. And that's mainly because an atom location is close to the western side of the Pacific. And Pacific, as you know, is a typhoon generating body. No? So it's all about water. When you warm up the water, kung naglalasok kita, nagkakalat ka. Ang result ito are basically typhoons. Okay? And what you see on the third picture on the right is our wildfires. Ito nga wildfires happen mainly in parts of the United States and Canada. Even until now, they have problems regarding wildfires. So kung di niya aton frequent typhoons, dito ay droughts or wildfires. So that, in effect, are the results of climate change. So worsening droughts, wildfires, stronger and more frequent typhoons, mainly because of rising temperatures. Hindi naman, it's the polar ice cap. Okay? Uh, because of the warming temperatures, natutunaw ang ice, and ito nga ice, magiging tubig, maalsa naton sea levels. So ang polar ice cap starting from the 1990s, may kita natin nagtitikaguteoy na ang polar ice caps. Again, din aton because of rising sea levels, di na kinanglan ng bagyo o uran. For example, the Malolos, Bulacan, high tide la. Apong nera. Okay? And then, in terms of coastal or marine biodiversity, that may result to acidification ng aton kadagatan because of the release of more CO2 gases, and that results in coral bleaching. And when we have coral bleaching, namamatay ang corals, then we lose our marine biodiversity, we lose our fisheries. Okay? So that is illustrated very well in the case of the Great Barrier Reef, Australia. Hindi naman ang resultahan climate change sa Pilipinas. Ang Philippines is always top 5 or top 10 global ranking in terms of the most climate vulnerable countries bugos sa kalibutan. Again, ang resulta ito, more frequent, stronger typhoons. We've had Super Typhoon Yolanda about 12 years ago. And then, pero about 2021, 3 years ago, Southern Leyte, Cebu, Bohol had Typhoon Odette. No? But if you go farther back, and Yolanda is not the first time that we had high casualty rate na resultahin mga bagyo. In 1991, let's not forget, we had Ormoc. Di ba? About 8,000 casualties. Physically, that rising sea levels result in threats to coastal communities. So a good example again would be Tacloban and the eastern Leyte municipalities, southern Samar, because of 15 to 20 feet high storm surge. So it's an immediate threat. In other areas, that would mean heat waves, droughts that harm agriculture and water supply. Remember last year we had an El Nino phenomenon, di ba? And being a member of the Regional Development Council, it's astounding to know that the Department of Agriculture wasn't really able to prepare for that El Nino phenomenon last year. Pag yung palampas na lang to, hasta na lang nagpapas ang El Nino. But we're going to have more of that. Okay, especially in this region. And then loss of fisheries, coral reefs from warmer and more acidic oceans. And prediction nga because of warmer Pacific seaboard and tuna, which by the way the Department of Agriculture and Fisheries in Region 8 is projecting to be a major source of income for the northern seaboard, including northern Samar, eastern Samar, will be affected by the warmer waters. And ang result ito, ang tuna will be drifting farther away. And their migration rate, kasi these are migratory species. So they'll be looking for cooler water. So they'll be farther away from the Philippines. And that means na naton, bisan na naton commercial fisheries, because we have very few ocean-going vessels, will not be able to compete with the Chinese or other national fisheries. Di ba? So, di rin na ito madadarang mga payaw. Chances are, according to a study done by ICSC, ang madadakop na lang kayo raraning ang 200 sa naton municipal and commercial fisheries will be squid. Okay? So nose, maybe cuttlefish. Kasi ang nose, they prefer warmer waters. Pero tuna, and other migratory fishes prefer colder waters. So that's one immediate impact of climate change in our country. Okay? Political and economic conflicts. It's really framed in a way na undeveloped and undeveloping countries like the Philippines are the ones in conflict in terms of policies relating to climate change. So for example, because of our colonial history, diba? The Philippines was a colony of Spain and then later by the United States for about 300, 400 years. In other words, because of that colonial history, a lot of our natural resources were extracted. Okay? And that is mainly the reason why the developed countries, ang mga magyaman yung mga countries yan, are already there. Because they benefited from what used to be our resources to the detriment of our natural resource base. So, it's rich countries na nag-benefit, but at the same time, because of the current way that they maintain their economies, hira ang pinakadako ang emissions, ang mga greenhouse gases. So the top two greenhouse gas emitters are the United States and China right now. Okay? And therefore, itong irrigwaos, itong dispute should result in payments for climate action. Very recently, siguro you've heard already about this, an International Court of Justice, no, an ICJ, not an ICC, the ICJ issued an opinion saying that states, especially developing states, have a responsibility to compensate for the damage done to poorer countries. Ini nga action dito ang ICJ was engendered by a filing by the island state of Vanuatu. So it's a Pacific country that is threatened by rising sea levels. Okay? Kung makitaas ang sea level ng Pacifico, Vanuatu is one of the countries that will lose some of their territory to rising waters. In fact, may country na waray na wala na nila katunahan aside from Vanuatu, no? And because of that action, an ICJ, while the opinion is not binding, it gives rise to the possibility in the future of developing countries claiming payments for emissions or inaction from developed countries. And then there can also be climate finance conflicts, no? So for example, may commitment internationally through the UN ang mga developed countries to pledge to raise at least $100 billion a year. To date, it's less than 1% na fulfillment itong mga commitments. Okay? And in some countries, like the United States, with the current president, President Trump, is saying that we're not responsible for that. Kay, di ba, the United States, even its commitment to the WHO, ira na inakasan. Hindi pa ba? Okay? And then there are disagreements over carbon credits, issues like carbon credits, technology sharing, and loss and damage funds. Hindi familiar lang kita ini siguro kasi the Philippines is the country host for the loss and damage funds. Kaya ini nga loss and damage funds has to do with mitigation measures. Nasa rin ini based on discussions and conference of parties, no? COP29, there will be COP30 Rio de Janeiro before the end of this year, saying that because of the damage done by the developing countries because of their emissions, they should raise funds so that developing countries adversely affected by climate change should be able to cope with the changes and prepare their economies and societies for that change. Amid ang context and loss and damage funds. By the way, ang Philippine Congress, ang usa nga nangungunang lawmaker na nagsispecialize sa loss and damage is from this region. Okay? Congressperson Ana Veloso Tuason. Ang third district na itong Leyte, no? Third district. Has been a resource person on loss and damage. So she's been attending in mga COP meetings. And she represents Congress in those discussions. So these are some of the political and economic conflicts at the global level. Later on, we can discuss other conflicts that arise because of climate change. Sa Pilipinas naman, it's basically a conflict between economic growth versus environmental protection. So what you see on top is the Coron Harbor. How many of us have been to Coron in Palawan? Snorkeling used to be, or diving used to be the main attraction of Coron. An original na coastline ng Coron is this. Okay? So, these lighter areas are reclamation projects. Okay? So, reclamation projects. Why? Hindi rin makutan nagpukulang ang Coron din tuna. Di ba? But it's mainly, they say, to generate more jobs, ecotourism, kaya kinahanglan ka daw yung mga dauman, yung mga, pero may naman dauman ng tahan ng kasalin. And it's also happening here in Region 8. No? I understand later you'll be going to see the Kakabato Bay. You also have the same instance of reclamations in Tacloban City. Diba? Tacloban, that's 30 plus hectares. Tacloban. To some extent, even Cambayo has. Ito mga coastal road. Diba? Na nagluluyan City Hall. That's reclamation project. And all the reasons that are being put forward by the DPWH and the politicians who support it is that this is for jobs, ecotourism, and even presented as a protection against climate change. So that essentially is greenwashing. That is what you will see here in Kakabato Bay and in the tidal embankment project. Okay? I was in an interview, okay, 2 days ago. In the interview was a study being jointly undertaken by graduate students of Eastern Visayas State University and the University of Sydney. Okay? And they were, ang era pag-studio, nakatuon nila ang seawall, ang tidal embankment project. And we did a social mapping. So being the resource person, akong gin-discuss ang context ng itong project nila ang Kakabato Bay included dito nila. So I was telling them that if you look at the Eastern Leyte Tidal Embankment project, it's not just about the wall, it's also about the causeway. It's also about the further development of the Tacloban International Airport. But it's also about reclamation. Because the long-term plan there really is similar to Coron. They're planning to reclaim around 400 hectares of Kakabato Bay and turn it into a Tacloban business center. Okay? Kasi, that the easiest way to get land in areas like Tacloban and Tacloban, where you don't have much land, is to reclaim. Pero why do you have to build a business center beside an international airport. Di ba? So those are the development questions that arise, especially in relation to Indian Causeway project. That's 2.6 kilometers. That's around close to 7 billion pesos. Mainly from the funds of Timog and the Speaker of the House.
Speaker of the House.
And you know the contractor,
Yes.
itong project, it's one of the top 5 of the 15 biggest flood control contractors, SunWest Corporation,
And the former chairman of the
and
committee.
former chairman of the Committee of Appropriations, Liwanan is one thing. And also the same company that supplied defective laptops to the DepEd.
Wow.
So it's SunWest yun. Ito yung nandito ngayon sa Causeway. Okay? And in the end, dito nga interview man University City and EDSU, I was able to convince, tell the interviewers after the mapping process that essentially it's the poorer sectors that have less power or no power at all in the decision-making process. Kaya in the particular case of Tacloban, for instance, thanks but no thanks to Yolanda, ipaiwas na sobra maharani 100,000 people because of the no-bill zone, di ba? So they took all these people, Taclobanons, away, put them in the northern barangays, and that made way for these projects. Okay? Well, later on, siguro you'll get the other side of that when you get to talk with Engineer Noel Nadera of the DPWH. Pero what we're saying is, because I'm part of the Kakabato Bay network, what we're saying is it's something that's not really climate friendly. In fact, the City Environment Officer, Bisman Tacloban, said that you cannot present this as a resiliency project because if you look at the onslaught of the Andaluyong ba, ang Stern Surge, di rin mantikang bibig. Di ba? Ang Stern Surge comes from Lady Lord, di Pakali. So it's not really protecting the global. Di ba? Yun. So poorer sectors are really not part of it. Even the business sector have not been consulted. And there were attempts at scoping, experience ni Luis Calvayo, pero that happened during the pandemic. And they didn't finish the consultations. They only came out later with the actual studies. And sad to say, even the consultancy firm that did the study to support the causeway and the tidal embankment was undertaken by former DENR employees.
Yeah.
Okay? So, may connection yan. May
Yeah,
connection.
connection.
Dun sa mga, when you talk about power, from the perspective of those who plan and undertake these development projects, and the lack of power coming from the affected, the impacted sectors. Okay? So, I will not be discussing a lot of that anymore because I understand Dr. Ali will be discussing that as well. Sige. Let's go now to mitigation. Or mitigation and adaptation. These are DRR-related terms, no? But very simply, mitigation means how are we to prevent the effects of climate change? No? So, the countries of the world agreed on net zero targets. Anong karisiganin? Net zero targets by 2050. Zero means no more emissions by 2050. That means from now, that's 2 decades and a half. Okay? Kaya ano kay kinanglan in net zero targets? Kasi amin itong set na target ang pagbutan ang mga leaders ang mga punuan ang mga maraming 200 na countries, so that we can reach a 1.5 degree. Okay, permit to mention 1.5 degree na target. And 1.5 degrees is a temperature target. If you go beyond the 1.5 degrees, then you go beyond, kumbaga you step beyond the red line, na there are inevitable na an effects on climate change. So 1.5%, 1.5 degrees is the maximum that we should reach. And that is why may da mga ginsisaring NDCs. Anong tawag sila ng NDCs? Net contributions. Okay? Nationally determined contribution. So each country is expected to come up with NDCs. Okay? Para ma-reach ito net zero target by 2050. And NDCs are jointly undertaken by the different agencies of the government. Kasi ang state, remember, it's the state that's responsible for this. NDCs are jointly agreed between departments like DNR, Department of Transportation, Department of Agriculture, kasi ang agriculture results in the release of methane, for instance, Bureau of Fisheries, Department of Energy, because energy is a very important sector, and other similar agencies. So that, kumbaga, ang Pilipinas, vis-a-vis the rest of the world, will reach its net zero targets. So, ang civil society organizations, we've tried to participate in that process by coming up with recommendations. Okay? So, among the recommendations that are made by civil society include agriculture, mga ginsisaring mga forest and other land uses. Okay? Mga protected areas, public lands, waste is a very important issue. Di ba? Kasi waste, mainly plastics, come from fossil fuels. Kasi and plastics are manufactured from petrochemicals. Cement is another industry that contributes to greenhouse emissions because of the use of so much energy. Mining as well, especially mining. Okay? So, that's one. Mitigation also includes transition to renewable energy. Kasi nga, fossil fuels is the main culprit of climate change. So, if we're going to change climate change, it has to be the RE route, renewable energy. And in our case, it's either what? Solar, wind, or already I mentioned, hydro. Okay? The Department of Energy is trying to put in gas. Pero gas is also a fossil fuel, and it's not renewable. Okay? And there are even plans to include nuclear. So it's very important for us to consider that even nuclear is also, strictly speaking, not renewable kasi damon niya byproducts. And in Congress, a number one proponent on nuclear power is Congressman Mark Wangko. Okay? And that is why some CSOs, this is very important for this community, some CSOs are apprehensive of pushing for an amendment to the EPIRA law. Diba? Kasi if you amend the EPIRA law, ang may tatawid, it will go through Congress. And there will be a danger that, siyempre, uso ka Congress yan ang insertions, di ba?
And the President mentioned it in persona.
Already, yung nuclear power, it could be inserted in the EPIRA law. And that's why the part of the CSOs, even in the recommendations to the NDCs, we don't mention much about amending the EPIRA law. Okay? Maybe changes in the IRR.
Yeah, in the
Okay?
IRR. The president is also pushing.
Ano IRR? Kasi without changing the law itself, maybe you can make amendments to the IRR so that you can have better renewable energy options. For example, dito, Albayo, or in other areas in the region. Okay? Mitigation. Also part of, increasing our climate shield is reforestation in many different forms. Because that includes land-based reforestation and also mangrove reforestation. And this is where it might be good for you when you get to talk with the DPWH. What's their take on mangrove reforestation vis-a-vis the wall? Or a combination of that, a nature-based solution. Kasi in Japan, they already realized that a wall is never really going to be enough. So what they do is sometimes they build walls, but the better protection is at least 150-meter thick natural mangrove, which is better protection. You'll see that later kung makatupang paraiso later on.
Our group.
Okay, so the Romano Roque will tell you that. So reforestation. And there's carbon capture. Carbon capture, wala pa ito national policy, but there are international discussions about this already. I think within the year or a half, the Philippines will have a policy on carbon capture. Pero in summer, there's already a project that's being done. Anong garising mo na carbon capture? It means that you need to build your natural carbon bank. And our natural carbon bank includes terrestrial forests, mangrove forests, and coral reefs. So when you say carbon capture, it basically means increasing your forest cover. Okay? It's easier in the case of Region 8 to do that in summer, which is why in summer, because you have around 333,000 hectares of the protected area, which is the SINP, Summer Island Natural Park. If you include a buffer zone, okay, a buffer zone that may already cover part of a majority of the close to 70 municipalities that ring the Summer Island Natural Park. Itong mga areas na partly denuded na o rain forest, itong ita-targetan itong carbon offset project. Carbon capture, carbon offset. You have to be familiar with that. In the case of SINP, the area that's being targeted is around 50,000 hectares outside of the strict protection zone of the SINP. And that covers part of the municipalities of Paranas, Muchong, Yabong, Katbalogan, Tugtugan to San Jose Libuan, pati na Nabangan. Ito 50,000 hectares, they will reforest that, take care of it for 30 years. So, sumunta 2025, tugtog iton 2055. 30 years. And then, that can be a carbon offset. Okay? A proponent company is a car company. Yeah? Familiar ba kamuhan luxury car ng Italian? Ferrari. Okay? Ferrari applied for a carbon offset project, and they identified these areas. They already had a MOA signed by between the representative of Adriada, representing Ferrari, and former Secretary Yulo. Okay? So they did studies, and this was even endorsed by the PAMB of SINP. And there are other carbon offset applicants. There's another CSO-led company called Ano nga ni Antoine? An iconic animal buhol, na di animal buhol may Tarsier Foundation. Okay? And Tarsier Foundation is also proposing a similar approach. So, essentially, ang concept and carbon capture or carbon offset is because the government on its own cannot fund reforestation, the private sector comes in. What's in it for the private sector? They get carbon credits. And they get to offset, in the case of Ferrari, a NERA carbon signature.
Yeah.
Okay, so you get credits and you offset it from your production of fossil fuel engines and cars. That's the concept of offset. Okay? And then you can trade that in the international market. The benefit for the local communities is, and for Samar for instance, is you get to have a serious reforestation program. But also livelihood for the locals. By the way, itong 50,000 hectares, itong areas na ako na-identify, will also include in part a bamboo reforestation project. Kasi, ining Adriada and Ferrari partnered with the Lorenzos of Cagayan de Oro. And the Lorenzos are into industrial bamboo, di ba? Ayun. They also tried to do that here in Leyte. Mga 2 years ago, there was a bamboo summit. Time pa ni Duterte. Ang problema Leyte, you don't have a contiguous area na pwede di mo i-reforest, okay, or mag-establish in bamboo plantation. There are issues to that, but it's one of the options on mitigation. And then finally, but this is not the last or the least, no? Electric vehicles and green buildings. Okay, so you build buildings that are better efficient in energy utilization or maximization of use of space. Diba? This may be something that Mayor Romualdez of Tacloban or the SP should consider. No? Kasi ang Tacloban, ang problema ng Tacloban is similar to Catbalogan, or the Catbalogan has more space. Tacloban is fenced in by that mountain range and the sea. So there's lack of space. So if you were going to ask me, ang Tacloban City, an option here is to build up instead of building horizontally or reclaiming the sea. Di ba? So vertical na ang dapat ng Tacloban kasi we don't have much space. So, during a vertical, it has to be green. Di ba? And then electric vehicles. So increasingly, we have more electric vehicles, but there are issues related to that, especially with regard to earth minerals, necessary earth minerals. This is very important. Kasi like nickel, chromite, magnesium, and other earth minerals is a market that's dominated by China. Okay? And that is why a nickel haumunon ng Manikani is basically extracted raw and shipped to China because we're not processing here. In other words, if you are to develop an electric vehicle industry, which is the plan of the United States, another developed country, you are essentially dependent on the trade of rare earth minerals, including, by the way, lithium. Kasi lithium and cobalt are the basic building blocks for batteries. Diba? Without batteries, you don't have an electric vehicle industry. Okay? So, yun. So, kung mitigation nito, pictures na kami pakita yun eh. This is in Palo. Barangay Castilla, Palo. Okay? And that is the latest Sabak Pitlan. Okay, which is a natural carbon bank. And also a natural water reservoir. So you're not going there, no? And Leyte Pitlan stages of flooding in other areas. Yesterday,
Congressman Jude Asidre King was interviewed by Channel 5, and they were talking about flood control. Leyte ranks among the top provinces with flood control projects. So we're not surprised. The speaker is from here. Tapos the way Congressman Asidre defended the identification of Leyte was flooding now. So, and he said it's working. In fact, may dala ko nung if you go through the Tacloban Bypass Road ng Topalo, they're building an artificial river, di ba? Ikang, where else? Sa Camellia, leading out to National Irrigation Authority, macross ito ang highway, mga gawas nga ito Leyte Gulf. Kamay Malurip. Okay? So, that's a flood control project. Yeah? So, pero natural way to control floods is through wetland areas like the Leyte Sapapitlan. Mind you, before our time, ang Leyte Sapapitlan mabot ito 25,000 hectares altogether. Yan ang nabibili na lang Leyte Sapapitlan is around 3,500 hectares. Maybe even less. So nabibili na lang covers Palo, Tanawan, and Santa Fe. San Miguel, Upat, ng munisipyo. Okay? Kaya ano kay natural reservoir yan? Kaya nag-uuran nga ni nasasalo ang pitlan ang tubig. Imbis na magdiretso niya salo na magresulta yung baha. Okay, that essentially is the role of pitlan. Aside from that, ang mga decomposed materials, ang mga naging tawag ng pitlan, are essentially carbon stored on the ground. So di rin yan nakakakosin pagka-distroso ang aton atmosphere, ang aton air. Doesn't contribute to global warming. And third picture is a picture taken in Paraiso. So, mangroves are also carbon sinks. Okay? Get yourself familiar with the term blue carbon. I think it will be discussed by Dr. Orali later on. Pero mangrove areas and coral reefs and seagrasses figure prominently in the discussion on blue carbon. And then the fourth picture is a green building. Okay? Quezon City. So, adaptation. When you talk about adaptation, it's how you live within the context of climate change. Very simply. So, din nasulod ang flood control. Elevated roads. Okay? And altogether, that's called climate resilient infrastructure. You also hear about nature-based solutions. Now, I'm not sure if Engineer Nadera will be discussing this later this afternoon, pero it might be good to ask, pero istorya ko na lahi yan. An origination hining Leyte Tidal Embankment Project na nagresulta ito mga causeway, na magresulta pa yung mga coastal roads later on, and reclamation, is actually two proposals, unsolicited proposals, coming post-Yolanda. Remember during that time, ang rehabilitation czar na in-appoint ni the late President Pinoy was King Lacson. Di ba? So, two proposals were submitted to the national government. One proposal was from the Royal Hot Spring Society of the Netherlands. That proposal is still there. In fact, I got myself a copy from the city government of Tacloban back in 2018. So essentially, Netherlands, kasi it's a perennially flooded country, di ba? In fact, parts of it is below sea level. Ngan, an approach sa Netherlands, ang recommendation para ang rehabilitation ng Super Typhoon Yolanda in our region was a combination of gray infrastructure and nature-based solution. So, one of their suggestions, in fact, is that you build more and better green belts. So aside from mangrove reforestation, you also build coastal green belts in areas where mangroves will not grow. So when you talk about green belts, that would include forest or native tree species along the beach areas. So it's a combination of gray, magbibuild ka paghihapon in wall, but it's not all wall. Okay, so that essentially was the recommendation of the Dutch. And then the second recommendation was coming from JICA. You know, JICA is very good in infrastructure. So it was presented to the national government. And siyempre, DPWH was consulted. And siyempre, DPWH preferred the infrastructure solution. Okay? So that was how itong tidal embankment came about. Because that's where the money is. And mind you, even the mayor of Tacloban initially opposed the fencing of, kasi part of the tidal embankment was to build a wall around Cacabat Bay. And remember during that time, there was an organization called SURGE. Diba? SURGE. This was a mass movement post-Yolanda that called for a more community-based rational approach to Yolanda rehabilitation. And karamihan nun were survivors. Okay? And syempre that was, the mayor agreed with that. Okay? But eventually, SURGE was red tagged. Okay, so na-red tag yung SURGE, long story short, you have Tacloban 5. Okay, mga journalists na hanggang ngayon may ongoing case. And that's why you won't hear much about SURGE anymore. Pero the people who survived Super Typhoon Yolanda, they're still there. It's just that we're saying they're either afraid to let their voices heard, okay, because they've been affected by the repression or so people are no longer listening to them. Okay? So your picture on the left is a very nice flood control project. Sa Netherlands yan eh. When the high tide comes, bababa yung ito yung may mga pump. Ito pa, interestingly. Itong Leyte Tidal Embankment Project over several rivers, di ba? They don't have pumps. What are to pump? So what happens when another Super Typhoon Yolanda takes place? For sure, itong wall will be overwhelmed. So how can the water go out if you don't have pumps? That essentially will result in flooding. Di ba yun yung hindi sinasabi ni Jude Isidre? Di ba? Yun. Yung second picture is a climate resilient house. If you notice, it's mainly made of bamboo, open air or in air conditioning, so less carbon footprint. And then what you have on the third is really essentially climate smart agriculture taking place in sa Japan yan. Okay? Pero there are efforts mainly by our agricultural universities, VSU, UP Los Baños, bringing technology, even artificial intelligence, closer to the farmers and the fisher folks, so that they can use it in real time and also for planning their planting or harvesting season. Kasi nagbabago na yan eh. Okay? And then the fourth picture is of course Pag-asa, no? Medyo nag-improve that there are also initiatives by the academy. There's Project NOAA initiated by the University of Philippines, Sinamahar, using the latest meteorological data and apps, no? Okay. So, sa Pilipinas naman, I was talking about the global scale. No? Sa Pilipinas naman, yung top picture is a picture from the Forest Foundation Philippines. Heard about it? Yung FFP. May mga project areas yan sila dito sa Eastern Visayas. So yun, na-mention ko na kanina yung mga NDCs, Nationally Determined Contributions. The target is to cut 75% of emissions by 2030. Mostly conditional, that's the government. Pero what the CSOs is saying, dapat unconditional. So for example, when you talk about expanding solar and wind energy, you should set targets for the co-ops. Okay? Ang legal jargon dyan is distribution utilities,
Yeah.
diba? In Region 8, we have 10 distribution utilities. Only one distribution utility buys a small percentage of its power from the Leyte geothermal facility. And it's only LIECO 2. So LIECO 2, if you look at the rates of LIECO 2, it's relatively lower and their power rates compared to say Iliran or Samelco 2 or Northern Samar. Because part of it is bought from Leyte geothermal. All the other distribution utilities, including LIECO 2, by the way, where do we buy our power from? It's as far as Bataan, Toledo, in Cebu, and in Mindanao. And that's why our power rates in the region is more expensive. Okay? Kaya coal power ito. Kung ito, ang KEPCO is coal, ang Bataan is coal. Di ba? And that's why our power is very expensive. So, what we're saying is, di relay expansion and solar and wind energy. It should also be setting up quotas for the distribution utilities. Kasi kita matano, we're power consumers eh. So kung taga-Samar ka, you should be able to tell sa Melco 1 or sa Melco 2, being a power consumer, that you should buy, di rin katanan, at least a certain percentage of your power from solar or wind or hydro. Kasi di ba there's tapped hydro already in Western Samar. Di ba? Quota. Right now, waray quota ito. Which is why napatardang ang mga distribution utilities. Pag pinalit ng power, very expensive, kind of fluctuate ito, and coal is getting expensive. Para maging competitive ang Eastern Visayas. Di ba? And then thirdly, there should be a ban on coal. Right now kasi, whether we like it or not, I think 70% of the whole power supply in Pilipinas is still fossil fuel based, mainly coal. Okay? And because ang quality ng coal ng Pilipinas is very low, even own company, Semirara. Even Semirara, because of the quality of the coal from Semirara, sells its coal to China. Kaya kinanglan pa ito refine. Okay? So we import our coal from Indonesia. What the civil society is saying is that there should be a ban on coal. Dapat tika pa 2020 ito. But we're also saying that the DOE should set a transition plan. Okay? Phasing out coal. Diba? Kung seryoso kita na ma-target itong aton 75% emissions, there has to be a phase-out plan for coal-fired plants and then replace that with solar, wind, hydro, geothermal. Okay? So that's what we're saying. And then fourthly, syempre, na-mention ko na kanina, part on mitigation gap, forest conservation programs. Adaptation, the picture that we're showing here is an evacuation center. Okay? Have you been to the Tacloban City Evacuation Center na may kuwan? Hindi, kasi hindi na yan in-encourage. Yung dati, di ba, yung naging evacuation center ng Astrodome. The biggest evacuation center of Tacloban is behind Stefti at Tipabukid, Barangay 109. So,
Yung National Convention Center, di ba yun ang nagiging evacuation center?
hindi siya dapat. In fact, dinidiscourage na yun ngayon eh.
Dati.
Dapat, if you talk to the OCD, they're saying dapat hindi na school buildings, dapat hindi na yung mga kagaya ng Astrodome. Kasi yung Astrodome, for instance, nasa tapat pa rin siya ng Cotabato din. So what we're saying is, evacuation centers should be better built and better located.
Yung ngayon, yung national, yung building ngayon national, yun ba yung dati?
Yan pa rin yung dati.
Yung maraming matay?
Oo.
Yung sa Albay, sa Legazpi ba yun, kay Joyce Salcedo?
Yeah.
Di ba? Ang napapamasyo.
So, yun pa rin. Pero, when you talk about the Philippines kasi, yung not all municipalities or barangays will have evacuation centers. Di ba? In the long run, the best adaptation capacity is still building resilience in communities. Or maybe in some communities, really relocating them. Di ba? Hindi rin pa kita na yung alimutan kaagihan din sa Ugon, di ba? And then very recently, at massive landslide Abuyo. Di ba? So, some communities will really have to be relocated if we are to adapt to climate change. Dito nga, yung recommendation is build elevated evacuation centers. But it also depends on where your evacuation center is located. So in the case of Tacloban, yung mention ko na pinakamalaking evacuation center, nasa bundok siya. Hindi na siya aabutin kasi nung storm surge.
Saka
Okay.
yung sa project Noah, yung maganda nila.
Importante yung location.
Mapping, ano?
Oo, kasi what you want to avoid is build an evacuation center in flooded areas or in areas that are prone to flooding.
Saka sa earthquake, malayo.
At saka malayo siya sa fault line. So all that information is available e-books, sa Pag-asa, etc. Okay, yun. Adaptation pa rin yung mangrove planting, no? Kasi natural barrier yan. And then for our farmers and fisher folks, crop insurance, and better farming methods. Okay? Climate-ready farming methods. Not importation. Well, we may still have to import, pero we have to be serious about yung pinopropose ngayon ni Senator Pangilinan. Now, we have to be serious about preparing for the eventuality of climate change. And that is, support your local farmers. Pass the National Land Use Act. Di ba?
But there are still 2 billion.
Well, there are still 2 billion, but di ba, it's been, kaya na, 2 decades na yung National Land Use Act. Okay. So yun, forecast. Very quickly lang. Positively, if we up, then the Philippines might be able to keep or give its contribution to keeping global temperatures at 1.5 degrees centigrade or maximum in 2 degrees centigrade. Pero some CSOs will debate on this. So we're better off at 1.5. Okay? If we up, hopefully we'll have fewer disasters and a more livable planet. Yung picture na ang meaning ipapakita ko to, that's a picture taken from the movie Wakanda. Okay, that's ideal. Okay, it doesn't have to be like that. Okay, and then if we are, hopefully we'll have sustainable growth or more jobs. Kasi renewable energy options can create more jobs. And we can have lower power rates, for example, in Region 8, we can compete with Cebu. So more industries can relocate to Region 8 if we have lower rates, because we're set to be the renewable energy capital of the Philippines. Kasi imagine, we have geothermal here, we have solar now in Palo and in San Isidro, we have hydro in Eastern Samar, we have wind in Samar and in Northern Samar. So we have large resources. Biliran has geothermal, diba? But we're not benefiting from that. Kasi we're selling it to the other regions. Diba? That's the irony of that. And then if we act, we can have new industries. We can have ICT centers in the region kasi with cheaper power, you can have more BPOs or ICT companies located here. Okay? And we can have better ecotourism. So those are some of the immediate, long-term forecasts if we act in concert. If not, this is what will happen. Temperatures will rise beyond 3 degrees. It will be worse. There will be even more super typhoons. We'll have more El Niños, water crisis, and more food insecurity. Why? Kasi Vietnam or Cambodia will first feed its population before exporting to us. Diba? So that spells food insecurity for Filipinos. And we cannot just avert that by going with former Senator Villar's recommendation to eat more kamote. Diba?
Vietnam and are also threatened by Mekong.
Oh, yun lang, they have more land compared to the Philippines. Okay? If we don't act, there's going to be more displacement and climate-related migration. This is already happening in Africa and in the Middle East. No? In fact, kung titignan mo yung conflicts in Ukraine and in the Gaza Strip now, indirectly, that's also related to climate change. Diba? So countries, even China, need more territory for, kasi the vastness of China is desert. It's the Gobi Desert. So they need more countries, even parts of Africa, so that they can raise more food stocks.
Pero surprisingly, in Gobi Desert, may mga agricultural
Oh, because they have the technology. Oh. So climate-related migration, and then finally, greater economic losses. Kasi where regions are abandoned, agriculture is abandoned because of migration, then your agriculture and your fisheries is affected. Now, there are no studies yet, but maybe somebody should do this. No? In the Philippines, as a part of our GNP, agriculture, fisheries, and forestry has sustainably or insustainably rather been a low-growth area. Is that the effect of over-migration? Kasi karamihan ng productive labor natin, especially in Region 8, if you look at the population segmentation of Region 8, the shape of our population distribution is like an hourglass. Gaya ng hourglass. Ang nabibili ng Region 8 are the very young and the very old. Our productive segments of the population are not in Region 8. They're either in the urban centers or abroad. Okay? And what does that mean? We should no longer be surprised kung kaya naman natin agriculture is not growing or our fisheries is not growing. In fact, there have been studies that say mas damo pa natin gini-import na beer and alcoholic drinks kontra ang ibang products na ipoproduce din na ito region. So we're exporting empty beer bottles and soft drinks bottles to Cebu or where the soft drinks manufacturers are. Because we're not producing enough to feed our population. Okay? So, that's if we don't. And there can be worse from that. What can we do? Very simply, one, plant more trees. Especially native trees. And then conserve energy. Kasi energy is very expensive. Very simple things. More walking, biking, or carpool. Ako, almost every day, I bike to work. If it's just within Tacloban and Palo, para di ka magka-problema ang iparasahe or parking or traffic, I bike. Okay? And then support renewable energy initiatives. Okay? More importantly, elections is going to take place in 2028. Waray barangay elections, yun ang December. We should vote for climate smart leaders. Okay? Hindi na yung mga leaders na mahilig sa flood control or infra. Okay? Kasi they need the money to buy votes for the next election.
Environmental campaign.
Di ba? Nagdadaong paghihapon. Nabubulagod. And then, what else can we do? Support and join climate movements. So feature them more in our coverage or in our articles. And then, reduce consumption, reuse, reduce plastics, or recycle. For the CSO community, for instance, we're calling for a total ban of the use of plastics in the Philippines. Many NGOs have already done that. So it shouldn't be difficult for us to adjust. Kasi ang Pilipinas is one of the top 3, if not the top 4, in terms of plastic refuse. And all that ends up in the sea. Okay? And also, in terms of policies, our cities were basically planned, pati natin mga bungto, were basically planned to revolve around what used to be the Carretela. Di ba? That's why Tacloban, even Calbayo, Catarban, at Tacloban, our streets are very small kasi Carretela yung design eh. And yet, our DPWH, our Department of Transportation, is very much car-centric. Diba? And that is why traffic will always be a problem. Kasi our towns and cities were not planned around cars. And therefore, part of the fossil fuel reduction should be shifting or reducing our use of cars to more active transportation. Okay? And when we talk about active transportation, we're saying that there should be more human-powered modes of transport. Walking, pedestrianization, more bicycling, more clustered communities, and less cars. We were reviewing, let me close by saying this, we were reviewing the regional development plan kasi halfway na to the term of the second Marcos administration, di ba? Align it more with the Philippine Development Plan. This is in the RDC. And the DPWH, anira development indicators is, anira metrics, kumbaga, for development is, if you reduce the travel time from Tacbalogan to Tacloban, then that's better. Yun yung measure nila. Of course, that's not true, di ba? Kasi those from Calbayog will say, per oras, ang Calbayog to Tacloban, yung biyahe ka pa 5 to 6 hours. That used to be, ano lang yan, 4 hours na yan. So it's 5 to 6 hours. So bagsak yung metrics ng DPWH. Pero what they're not saying is, it's a wrong metric. Diba? Kasi in the case of Tacloban, or in the case of Region 8, the correct metric should be how many public commuters use the roads. By DPWH's metrics per report to the RDC, the majority of motor vehicles using our highways are not public transportation vehicles, private cars. So we're no different from Metro Manila, di ba? Yung EDSA, majority na gumagamit ng EDSA, private vehicles. So, who benefits? 95% ng population natin don't have cars. Diba? In other words, it's not the basic vulnerable sectors that benefit from all these infrastructure projects going on. So, di rin flood control ang problema. Even our highways, and we know how DPWH maintains our bridges, di ba? A living example is the San Juanico Bridge. They haven't been able to maintain it properly. So there goes your climate adaptation. Okay? So we need to engage with the powers that be in coming up with solutions relating to climate change. So with that, a final thought, off-quoted ito, we do not own or inherit the earth from our ancestors. Hiniram lang natin yan. We only borrowed it from our children. So with that, thank you. I think lumampas na ako.